Just know how you feel inside. I got love on my mind. I'm just being in love. 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 I'm just being in love.
Happy Sunday, y'all. Come on in, get comfortable. Just waiting for some more folks to come on in the room. Share this link with your friends and your family. Let's get a good discussion going today.
The revolution will not be televised, so just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be compromised, so promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised, so just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be televised, it will not be televised.
I'm just a visionary, I can see clearly and I'm never staying stationary. They see me still and they consider me the adversary, cause every time I spit a verse I'm just a mercenary. They want me missionary shit, I ain't never gon' sit. They ain't let up on the clip and I ain't never gon' flip. They got us set up from the get up, but we rising in the shit. No more dying for the brick, we out here riding for the click. Watch my eyes, they focus on the sunrise. Every time the sun sets I wear the culture on my neck and I ain't never undressed. No rest, we ain't weaker, we just full of soul and you oppressed. Ride or die, we riding rough until the day we meet in death. Staying blessed, I'm praying for you, praying for you. If they ever come then I'm slaying for you, slaying for you. I be at the front lines, ready like it's blunt time. Steady when it's tough time, cause I got that revolution bloodline.
The revolution will not be televised, so just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be compromised, so promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised, so just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be televised, it will not be televised. Young man, he was playing in these streets, he lived for staying in and out of beef. Each day, different drama in his life. He prayed that he would live to 25, but he hustled from the morning to the night. His only goal was trying to get his money right. Each day, staying in and out of beef. He prayed that he would make it in the street. What's the difference between a man and a king if they both got power? A man is just a man, and if he can't see the tower, he sleep. The line is marginal peace. Look in the mirror, you see pain and oppression. You want peace, it's getting clearer. Cause what is the purpose of you trying to secure the bag if nobody around you is trying to secure your status? Everybody wanna get angry when I ask the question. Cause something is better if it's something you never had. My bad. Revolution.
Guess something is better if it's something you never had. My bad. Happy Sunday. Hey, Jim Savage. How are you doing today? Good to see you here. So I'm just waiting for some more folks, but for my 3 dedicated viewers, happy Sunday. Yeah, y'all get those likes up, share the show. Now look, you're golden, good, very good. Listen, we talk about this every Sunday. Let's take care of a little bit of business. It's a little business. And that business is, please and kindly hit that like button. I see you in here watching, so let's know that you like the show. And just to drive the point home, my favorite little reel, hit that like button. Hit that like button. It matters. It really matters. So today's show, for those who don't know, is about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. People across the nation are off work tomorrow, of course, to honor his birthday, to celebrate his birthday. There will be birthday celebrations everywhere. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the legacy of Dr. King. Not a whole lot, because I want y'all to talk to me, but we're going to chop it up today. So, wait for some more people to come in, of course. It's not a super juicy show, but it's a show nonetheless. And I think I'll start us off with the Revolution video. This music that you hear here in the background is a video that was done not too long after George Floyd was murdered. And so the relevance about that today, of course, is the civil rights of our people, the right to walk around as a person of color and not have to lose your life for some random reason, right? Some renegade officer, or, even amongst each other, right? So the purpose of this song is mainly about reminding yourself about the power within, reminding yourself about your ability to rise above, the difference between walking around with your eyes wide shut and recognizing that you dictate your circumstances, that's a high level conversation. However, it starts small. The seeds are planted and then it grows. So I'm going to show this video, and of course I would love your feedback. And before we do, don't forget to hit that like button and share this show. Please and thank you. So let's get into this video. I would wait a little longer, but for my dedicated viewer, I'm going to do this just for you. And shout yourself out in the chat, because of course we love to know who's there. Okay, I hope you enjoy.
The revolution will not be televised, so just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be televised, it will not be televised.
I'm just a visionary, I can see clearly and I'm never staying stationary. They see me still and they consider me the adversary. Cause every time I spit a verse I'm just a mercenary. They want me missionary shit, I ain't never gon' sit. They ain't let up on the clip and I ain't never gon' flip. They got a setup from the get up but we rising in the shit. No more dying for the brick, we out here riding for the click. Watch my eyes, they focus on the sunrise. Every time the sun sets I wear the culture on my neck and I ain't never undressed. No rest, we ain't weaker, we just full of soul and you oppressed. Ride or die, we riding rough until the day we meet in death. Staying blessed, I'm praying for you, praying for you. If they ever come then I'm slaying for you, slaying for you. I be at the front lines, ready like it's blunt time. Steady when it's tough time, cause I got that revolution bloodline.
The revolution will not be televised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be televised, it will not be televised. Young man, he was playing in these streets. He lived for staying in and out of beef. Each day, different drama in his life. He prayed that he would live to 25, but he hustled from the morning to the night. His only goal was trying to get his money right. Each day, staying in and out of beef. He prayed that he would make it in these streets. What's the difference between a man and a king if they both got power? A man is just a man, and if he can't see the tower, he sleep. The line is marginal peace. Look in the mirror, you see pain and oppression. You want peace, it's getting clearer. Cause what is the purpose of you trying to secure the bag if nobody around you is trying to secure your status? Everybody wanna get angry when I ask the question. Guess something is better if it's something you never had. My bad. Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised, it will not be televised, it will not be televised.
I'm gonna sit here and talk for 20 minutes with the mute on. Thank you, SavageCom.entertainment. Can you hear me better now? So, the video again was shot during a very heavy time, during the quarantine time, during the time following the death of George Floyd. And it was just a really, really heavy time. So I showed you that because it puts me in the mind of civil rights. Hi, Kill Fiji. Good to see you here. So yeah, that song is called Revolution, and it's available on all streaming platforms. QueenSanaa featuring Iconic Bonds, and the video is also on YouTube, which is youtube.com/c/QS Queen Sanaa. Come see me, and remember to subscribe and share and like this show. Yeah, go ahead and hit the like button. So, again, today we're talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Uh, great legacy he left behind. He was still a man. Of course, there was a lot of controversy, behind some of his choices, but that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is the civil rights journey. Let's talk about some of the things that led to the civil rights journey. Was it Rosa Parks? Uh, was it the sit-ins at the counters? Uh, what was it? What was it? If you know, drop it in the chat. Lots of people like to say uh, the cause of the movement was when Rosa Parks was arrested for refusing to move to the back of the bus in Montgomery, Alabama. However, we know that's just a small snippet, right? So, what caused the civil rights movement were discrimination, racism, white supremacy, things that are intended to keep a people down. And so, I would say that the catalyst, maybe, was when Rosa Parks had a long day at work, probably sick and tired of being sick and tired on that particular day, and just said no, I'm not giving up my seat. And people say a lot about what they would and wouldn't do. Myself personally, I could see myself being that person with the side eye, like I wish I would get up and move. um and not to minimize what our forefathers and foremothers did. I just, when people say we are not our ancestors, it's a lot of times I'm just like, why not? Right? 'Cause they really, they did a lot. I'm just gonna say it like that. Because if so, I do agree. Oh, you are literally a result of your ancestors and actions that they took, right? And then the blood that flows through your veins is the blood of generations back. So technically, you are your ancestors. Just looking at this picture, though, I see some people from the press. I see a group of individuals, Black people, white people, could be some indigenous people. It's a bunch of people holding signs. I see a sign about changing the segregated rules in public schools. I see signs about jobs for all, decent pay, housing, equal rights. And I think it's interesting because when people talk about civil rights, right, there are so many things that do fall into that category. What are civil rights? What are civil rights? Civil rights ensure a person's entitlement to participate in the civil and political life of society and the state without discrimination or repression by governments or social organizations or even private individuals. Meaning, if I have $1 billion, technically I should not be able to just flood your town and turn it into a state park, for example. But it does happen, doesn't it? It happens, doesn't it? So I'm going to take this down. I hope you took a minute or two to kind of look through the picture, but I'm going to give you about 30 more seconds and then I'll take it down. And I would like to hear more about what you see in this picture. What stands out to you the most in this picture? I would say that for me, what stands out the most is that sign in the back that says housing now. And honestly, well, I'll talk about how I feel about it in a minute, but I'm gonna go ahead and take it down. And I would love to hear from you in the chat. What comes to mind looking at these images of all these people holding all this different signage, talking about housing, fair pay, benefits, equal rights? What are your thoughts? It's a listening day for me. So while I wait for you to tell me in the chat what comes to mind, I would say that I think I have mentioned in the past that there's an affordable housing task force coming up. And I'm sorry, I called it a task force. It's a town hall. There's an affordable housing town hall coming up in Guilford County, North Carolina, and it's an action phase of a COFI group. COFI means community organizing and family issues. And for those who do not know, I am a COFI facilitator. So I teach families how to set individual goals, and then goals for their families, and then goals for their community. And then ultimately, these groups would move on and take action, whether they're at City Hall or, just affecting legislation. But at this particular phase, there's a town hall. And the town hall is to bring awareness to the community about what agencies are working to help families with affordable housing issues. Hear from the community about what affordable housing issues exist, and empower people to say more, do more, take more action, participate more. It's COFI. And back when my guest, Aria Pierce, was on, who is also a COFI member, we were kind of talking about the COFI website. So I'm going to drop that link for you for some good information. So yeah, the gist of it is COFI was founded in Chicago. A group of mothers and grandmothers tasked with cleaning up the community, strengthening their families, and bringing dads home. It's a big deal. I know they don't really say it out loud, but when you really get into the curriculum, there's a really big push to bring the fathers back into the community. And as we all know, fathers are here They just are not always elevated. They don't always have the voice that they need. So, bringing that back full circle to the picture that I saw that said housing now, we are still dealing with fair housing issues, where affordable housing does not always mean safe housing, where safe housing typically means that you're priced outside of your ability to sustain that housing. And this is the reason that we had people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others protesting and marching and advocating. So I'm going to take a minute because I see my chat is buzzing, 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 buzzing. And so the question was, for the picture that I showed before, what came to mind? It was this picture here. What came to mind when you saw this picture? So just looking in the chat, Rashid Sharif Albay says, my great uncle Kenneth stands out the most for me. He's not in this photo, but he was a colleague of Dr. King and worked with him closely. And then going back to the statement about I am not my ancestors, which Rashid Sharif Albay says he hates that statement. I try not to use the word hate, but I definitely understand the depth of that feeling behind it. Not just the results of the ancestors' actions, but literally the ancestors. These people have never heard of DNA. Right. So when I said actions, I was actually talking about the procreation. I just was trying to keep it clean on a Sunday. Yeah. And so Uncle Kenneth, which to my viewers and listeners is also I guess if he's your great uncle, he would be my great great uncle, right? So Uncle Kenneth was the field director for the NAACP in Alabama, and his Mississippi counterpart at the time was Medgar Evers. So y'all, my dad is just giving y'all a little glimpse into who my ancestors are, who sat on city councils and served on NAACPs and things like that. So yeah, I am my ancestors. I don't see anything wrong with that. He was the first Black man to run for a city councilman seat at Tuskegee. Now that I did not know, so I just learned something new. Oh well, y'all see that? That gerrymandering is a B word, ain't it? Now, everyone does not know what gerrymandering means. So, I'm going to give you the Webster's definition of gerrymandering while we continue to browse this picture for things that may stand out. And I would love to hear from others as well, please, because as you know, chat lives matter. And that's what I heard, and that's what I know. So going to the gerrymandering, it means you manipulate the boundaries of an electoral constituency so as to favor one party or class. In other words, you achieve the result to the election by manipulating the boundaries of the area that's voting. Like I said earlier, a bunch of bullshit. That's the word for it. Like, there's no other word for that type of stuff when you have the power to do those kinds of things. I mean, shout out to Uncle Kenneth and rest in peace as well, my ancestor who organized a boycott that lasted for 3.5 years. And y'all ask me why I still don't watch football. Come on, it's in my blood. It's in my blood. So yeah, does anyone else have any standout thoughts about that photo? Just curious. Nothing major. What I think is really interesting is there's a sign asking for equal rights, right? And here in 2023, you have this word equality that's going around. So much to the point that it's kind of a buzzword now, but it's still a word that has a ton of validity, right? Because people want to be equal. But then you have a new buzzword called equity, which has a totally different meaning, doesn't it? Because equity means uh, I may need, I don't know, 2 stories in my house to function in a way that the person next door can function with 1 story in their house. But we're all functioning well, and we're all functioning to the best of our ability, and no one is missing anything. Whereas equality may mean we all get that same 1 level house, right? And that same 1 level house might put one person at a huge disadvantage. It may put another person at a great advantage. That's equality, though. It's all equal, but it doesn't work for everybody, does it? And that's the difference between equality and equity. I was hoping I had some visuals for you, but I just do not. Not for that. Okay, Jim said, I see phony people. Okay, all right. So tell me a little bit about that. Um, what are you? Let me pull the picture back up. Let me pull the picture back up. So, what is the phoniness that you see in this picture? I'm interested in hearing your feedback on that. While I wait to hear from you, Jim, I'm seeing in the comments about, in regard to this gerrymander in Tuskegee, that this attorney and pastor organized a 3.5 year boycott. All the domestic workers who had to go to the next county to clean homes. They would carpool people to shop and to work in the county next door. And that the bus company in Tuskegee went bankrupt and many of the stores closed because people were shopping elsewhere. And that after 3.5 years, those city lines were redrawn. And then Uncle Kenneth, who is my great great uncle, was elected as the first Black city councilman in Tuskegee. Same era as Medgar Evers, and could have been murdered for his audacity. Yeah, that resonates. And that's deep. That's that heaviness that I was talking about earlier. It's palpable. You can feel it in the air, right? So, Jem, in regard to saying that you see phoniness, so you said you read faces well, and they're not really on his side. And also, decent pay goes to who? Yeah, good question, because the sign says jobs for all and a decent pay now. Well, who is all? Right? I always have that question when people say for all. All of who? Does the all include the people who are oppressing other people? And if so, do I really want to rally behind that? I personally do not. I said it, I meant it, because that does not serve the greater good, in my belief, if I'm empowering those who are stepping on others, right? But listen, we're a little bit of a ways into our show. I know this is some heavy content on a Sunday. I realize that. But as some of you are sleeping in tomorrow, lots of people all over the nation will be honoring the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So, just paying some homage to those who came before us. Just paying some homage to those who came before us. Let me ask this question, all right? I just want you to take a little time and think about this. When you think about how things were, right, in the 1960s, when all the marching and the protesting and the sitting in was going on, the boycotting was going on, and you reflect on life today, do you believe that anything has changed? And if so, what? What do you believe has changed? Personally, I believe that the more things change, the more they stay the same. And that may be a cliche, but it's also true, right? So, uh, places that people that look like you and I couldn't live in the past, they may be able to live now, but a lot of those circumstances are vile circumstances. We all know about redlining, right? Well, maybe we don't all know about redlining. Let me give you a little lesson on redlining really quickly. What it means is the refusal to loan to or insure someone because they live in an area deemed to be a poor financial risk. It is absolutely a discriminatory practice, and services are withheld from potential customers because apparently these investments are hazardous. These neighborhoods almost always, and I dare say always, have significant numbers of racial and ethnic minorities and low income residents, right? Redlining, that's what that is. So now you have cities who have programs that are trying to bring people back into the inner city. Now, how did we get to this point? How did we get to the point that where we wanted to live, when we were finally able to live there, um, we were kind of like blocked out of loans to go anywhere else? We were kind of, I'm saying we because, yes, this is people that I come from. This is people that you may come from. This is people, you may be a descendant of. No loans, no home repair loans, no upkeep, no potential buyers. Nobody wanted to live in those places. And then when things got as bad as they could possibly get, then those same folks swooped back in, reinvested, pushed us out, and there you have gentrification. Yay! So yeah, I just find it very interesting. Okay, so bringing the conversation back to the boycotting, it says our boycotts, when they even happen, are not long lived or disciplined, and we don't know what our own interests are, nor how or why our collective interests and individual interests diverge. Okay, you bring up a good point because there seems to always be this huge public outcry, right? And then most people are back to business as usual, as if things never happened. Now, this may be a reach. It's probably really a reach, but I always tend to wonder if there's a tie between someone's inability to stick to standing up for what's right and their level of self love. Now, mind you, this is me. This is just how I think and how I feel about it. But yes, yes, I agree. We are not a monolith. And I say this all the time. There's a lot of intersectionality between, what one person stands for and what another person stands for in the Black community. If you use the term Black, which some people choose not to, and I understand. But for all intents and purposes, if you are within the Black community, uh, when it all boils down to it, what I stand for, what you stand for, what the person beside you stands for, um, if we work together, we typically can have better outcomes no matter what. So I do agree that that discipline is very necessary. Otherwise, it can turn into that it's not my problem type of thing, or this doesn't really affect me type of thought process. But yeah, going back to self love. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that every problem on the planet is solved when you love yourself, right? But I am saying it's a good foundation. How can you stand for anything if you don't have the basics? If you look in the mirror and hate what you're looking at, how can you see a reason to stand up for anything for anyone that resembles you or even for yourself and stick to it? So, yeah, I'm pulling those concepts together. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, again, for those who are just joining, don't forget to hit that like button. About that time to pay some bills. Hit that like button. Let's get those likes up and get that good content coming. It's a sunny Sunday, at least here where I am. And let's see, as far as redlining goes, the effects are still going on all these decades later, yes. Black people tend to be far more financially conservative than white people typically are. The economics of gentrification are not in and of themselves evil. You always want to buy low and sell high. What makes them hard for and on us is that most of us aren't able to take advantage of those economic laws to gain control over our communities. They're not automatically a tie in, but there is a relationship depending on the individual. Yeah, simply put, I'm going to go back to pushing people out of communities. And what I mean by pushing people out is uh, if for the past several years, I'm going to even say for the past 20 years, my grandmother, great grandmother, whoever has had this property in the family, right? Then all of a sudden, some investor swoops in and buys up the dilapidated house on the corner. Yeah, it's wonderful that someone bought up the dilapidated house on the corner. Thank you very much. Um, and then what they do to the house, the way they rehabilitate the house, what they pour into the house, brings up the value in a way that brings the taxes of everyone else around that house up so high that they can't afford to live there anymore. I see that part as a problem. I don't see anything wrong with people coming in and revitalizing a community. But when you revitalize a community, would it hurt to review the economic impact of that revitalization and plan a long term plan where it can be effective for everyone? Or is it just about the dollar? Well, we know the truth is most of the time it's just about the dollar. It's not typically about the people, right? So we're just being realistic about that part too. And I know again, this can be pretty heavy. We're talking about civil rights. We're talking about redlining. We're talking about unfair practices. And I just want to go back to this five main civil rights because I don't think we talked about those. But the right to vote is a civil right. You know, there are so many people that don't vote just because, not even any real reason. And to each his own. However, I don't know, my thoughts are, at least when you're talking about local elections, I personally do not want to go in for a traffic ticket uh, with a judge that I didn't vote for. I definitely want to be in there with the judge that I would like to see in office, just personally. Um, I don't want to have to interact with the sheriff who is under the I don't know what the right word is for what I'm looking for, but whoever that head sheriff is, I want that person to be someone I voted for. Listen, maybe I'm minimizing it. Maybe I'm not making it make sense, but for me, I would love to see the local officials be people that I believe should be in office. And of course, we all have different thoughts and feelings about it, but do you know how many people do not vote in local elections? So much so that people just end up winning by default. Then you got a large group of people complaining about what's not working, but those same people did not do anything to solve the problem. Get those folks out of office, get some new people in, change some of the policies. So I always wonder, did you know that you could change the policies? Did you know that you could affect the outcomes? Did you know that your voice mattered? Did you know that you could be heard? So I take that back to COFI, community organizing and family issues, because it does start with setting personal goals. When you set personal goals, it may seem like I'm talking in circles, but I'm taking it somewhere. When you set personal goals, right, it allows you a different perspective when you address your family. When you look at your family and you start to see whether or not your family, I'm talking about your family in your home, aligns with your goals or not, it gives you a different perspective in regard to how to set goals for your family, right? Once you set goals for yourself and your family and you start to meet those goals, you kind of start looking around at your community and going, does this community align with the goals of my family, or are we all out of sync, right? Again, I'm taking this back to COFI, community organizing and family issues. Now, when you start to see that you and your community are misaligned, you have an opportunity to then try to set goals for your community. Okay, it doesn't feel safe. Maybe we can do more about cleaning up the neighborhood. Um, maybe we can do more about, maybe there should be a park on this corner over here. Maybe we should try to get some banks in the community. Or we have a food desert. Maybe we should focus on getting a supermarket, just to name, just a few examples. Okay. There's potholes over there. Let's get the street fixed. This is what I mean when I say setting community goals. Once you set community goals, you really do start having the opportunity to see how many policies are misaligned with your community goals. And that is what I think about when I see this picture. I see misaligned policies. I see individuals, families, communities who set goals, and those goals are not able to be met because of brick walls that are in the way, which again is policies, bureaucracy, red tape, barriers, limitations, lack of access, people not listening, or people who just don't care what's being said. That's what I see when I look at these signs. I imagine that this is what a COFI town hall would look like, or a bunch of members going up to City Hall. I can imagine what this would look like. This is what it would look like. And maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe it's just this one person with this one vision that led this one movement, right? No, of course not. Of course not. So we didn't get super deep today. I know. I'm sorry. But I definitely wanted to have this discussion. And so, for my two viewers, thank you for being so interactive with me today. Um, tell me your thoughts about if you could organize a community, right? That's wishful thinking, but if you had a grant right now to organize your community to facilitate one change, what would that change be? What would you do with that grant money? Personally, I think that some of it would go towards a dedicated security guard in my neighborhood. I'm serious. Someone who is just always around because you never know. Things happen. Yeah, what would you do if you were given a small grant to change your community? I always wonder who funded the civil rights movement, right? Because lots of money was needed to make those marches happen, um, to bail people out of jail, right? So those who supported financially were the Field Foundation, the New World Foundation, the Stern Family Fund, the Taconic Foundation. I might be saying that wrong, but they were called the Freedom Funders. And typically that money came from philanthropic organizations. And so, of course, they gave grants and donations to those different civil rights organizations, right? Because you're not doing this out of pocket, are you? This is a big deal. This is not just, small potatoes, not just buying French fries and having conversations. We're taking trips to different cities. We're rallying. Signs cost money, right? New shoes after walking from state to state it costs money. People going to jail because of the civil unrest. They have to be bailed out. They do. So I was talking about COFI, and that funding actually comes from the Hilton Foundation. So they provide these small grants to various communities across the United States. And those communities take these funds and they organize and they strengthen and they mobilize, dare I say, and they take action and they make change happen in their communities with these funds. So, yeah, so to my two viewers, thank you for still being here with me. And before we get into it, just a friendly reminder to hit that like button and share this episode with your friends. So, yeah, so what would you do with those funds if you had I don't know, $5,000 or $10,000 to put an organization together, to rally behind a cause, to, I don't want to say protest, but what would you do? What would your movement look like? I said a security guard, but I think that I would also, I would also put together a task force to clean up the neighborhood several days a week. And when I say clean up the neighborhood, it's kind of windy where I live, right? So every day you walk out, there may be a mountain of trash that has just blown from up the street even and just collected in one spot. So what that will look like to me is a group of individuals with vests on, with bags and those little trash picker things, just cleaning up the neighborhood, and not for free, because volunteering is nice, but people do have bills to pay. There would maybe be, I don't know, a stipend for people to just clean up the neighborhood. And you know what else? It would count as community service, even though they're getting paid for it, because they are servicing the community. That might be wishful thinking, I think. And maybe it is. I don't think it is. Just my thoughts. I'm gonna check on y'all in the chat just a bit. Looking for something to show you. I think you might enjoy. I don't know. Let's see. Peace, Israel Mills. Good to see you here. 2 on the way to 2 million. All right now. Well, I have 3 now that you're here. Thank you for joining me. So, we were talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We were talking about his contribution to the civil rights movement. And we were talking about setting community goals. And so the question was, if you had a grant to take action in your community, what would the action be that you take in your community? And you can put it in the chat and we'll talk about it, because, of course, chat lives matter. And I'd love to have you here. So yeah, tell me a little about what you would do. Absolutely. You're always welcome. So yeah, so I was just saying I would have a paid community cleanup situation. I would have a dedicated security guard. I would have, I don't know, there's so many things you could do, right? With a grant for the community. Now, I'm not talking about paying for a tub of Jell-O for women to fight in. I'm talking about, I'm just talking, y'all don't pay me no mind. I think I have something to show you all. I do have something to show you. Okay, I don't know. It didn't look like there were too many ideas for what to do with a community grant to change the community, but it's definitely something to think about. Because I tell you what, okay, here we go. First, I would generate mentoring programs for the young men, which they would clean up and fix the abandoned, broken homes, pick up trash, etc. That's what I'm talking about. That is what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what I said. Well, not exactly, because I didn't just say the young men, right? And I didn't just say the broken homes. Listen, that's a big deal, because Abandoned buildings are traumatizing to live near or to see regularly, aren't they? So Rashid Sharif Al Bay says there's a group in Chicago, now I may say this wrong, called the El Rukins or Rukins. They used to be called the Black Pea Stone Rangers, led by Jeff Fort and Gene Hairston. And so W. Clement Stone funded them, and he was a multimillionaire and founder of Combined Insurance Companies and Success Unlimited. Okay, yeah. See, I agree with that. I totally agree with that about the politics making strange bedfellows. I got some stories about it, but I won't speak on it right now. Hey, Opulent Jade, no worries. Thank you for joining today. So Israel Mills says he would also have a community lunch and dinner and have them serve each other and have the young women learn to serve food and to serve other people. So it sounds like it'd be like a coming of age type of situation, or like a I don't know, that kind of puts me in the mind of the Nation of Islam, where they do a lot of training in regards to cooking and maintaining a household and sewing. And I don't know, let me know if I'm off the mark. But okay. Rashid Sharif Al Bay says he would replicate some of the community programs of the Nation of Islam and the Black Panthers. I hear you. How would you? No, I'm not going to ask that question. What I am going to do is, Opulent Shade, we are talking today about the work of Dr. Martin Luther King. We started talking about the last year, here where I live, we had an online tribute to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It was about an hour or so long, and I did a spoken word piece. So I'm gonna see if I can show you all a little snippet of that, Opulent Jade, while you decide what you would do to change your community if you were given a grant to do so. And let's see if I can make this work. Let's see. Let's see what happens. In the meantime, don't forget to like the show and share it with all of your friends, because the more likes I get, the better the content. We still have not figured out the science behind it, but it is scientific. So let's see here. While I'm working on this video, just going back to the chat a bit, Israel Mills says he would have the young men and women trained on how to get along, how to appreciate each other, and learn family and community building, the importance of family and community building, and how to cooperate with one another. You know, I like that. I like that a lot, because I believe that that's what's missing from the start, right? Because of course, the earlier you start, the more long term the effects would be. I did ask about the funding for the NAACP. It was a Jewish backed and Jewish led organization, which is why at the time a lot of Black organizations weren't in favor of them. Seems like that would have been a trust issue for sure, right? Do you think anything has changed since then? Opulent Jade says she would use her funding to create safe spaces for young adults. That resonates with me. They do not really have a whole lot to do they? Even a lot of the agencies that kind of support families with young children, it seems like once the children hit a certain age, they kind of just throw the teenagers by the wayside. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Those are my thoughts. We were also talking about what has changed since the civil rights movement and what seems to have remained the same. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. So yes, Rashid Sharif Al-Bey, I am familiar with the free breakfast program, being a part of the Black Panthers program, and that WIC ended up being a federal adoption of that community program. I think it's interesting. A lot of smaller organizations do create blueprint, and then it tends to be picked up with government funding backing it. This I did not know. This I did not know, Rashid Sharif Al-Bey. So that's something, you learn something new every day. Um, okay. Talk amongst yourselves in the chat. And this is going to be my attempt to show a portion of the spoken word. Let me get that off and get this on and see what we can get going for you. It's just a snippet.
Does the dream even apply to me? Many have asked this question. Others have asked, how? I keep hearing about this dream. I know what it means, but what now? Do I ignore the plight of my people for the greater good? Do I elevate my voice and make sure that we all can be heard? Do I turn my back on those whose sole purpose is to further the work because communication is skin deep and often misunderstood?
Yeah. Just a snippet. And so, the rest of this is actually available on YouTube. No, it's not. I take that back. It's just a small little piece. The rest of this is actually available on the other streaming platforms, and it's not the actual performance, but it is the vocal music version with some ad libs and oohs and ahs and whatnot. But it's called Keeping the Dream Alive. And that was the theme for last year's MLK breakfast out here where I am. So, kind of just a deep discussion about what is the dream actually about? Is the dream about me when people that don't look like me are saying that they are here for the cause? Like Jim said, a lot of the folks in the picture looked really phony, like they weren't really there to support Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? And so, should I keep pressing forward to do this work, knowing that, lots of folks are fraudulent or just showing up to make a name for themselves or for a pat on the back? And at the end of the day, yeah, because the work still has to be done, doesn't it? Someone has to toe the line. So going back to Opulent Jade is saying that she would offer a place where young, or sorry, what was the word you used? You said young adults, that's right, could develop their talents and learn financial literacy and start their own businesses instead of working for someone else. And that you were in junior high school 271 in Brooklyn. I also went to IS 271, for those who do not know much about my younger years. And the last year that you were there, Dr. King was assassinated. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like, what that experience was like? Israel Mills, I hope you're feeling better now. I don't know if you have Spotify or Apple Music. I'm going to go ahead and send you the link so that you can listen to the entire spoken word. And this is the link for Spotify. And this is the link for Apple Music for those who want to hear the spoken word. Just going back to the chat. Opulent Jade says it was chaotic when Dr. King died or was assassinated. They started burning down the neighborhood. And the following year, you were bussed out of your neighborhoods. When you say that, are you saying they put you all on buses out of the neighborhood, or are you communicating something different? I just want to make sure I relay that properly. And while you go back and reiterate what you were saying, Rashid Sharif Al Bay says, I worked for an organization called Operation Open City many years ago that took high school dropouts and put them into a 2-week rotation. The group was split in two. And for 2 weeks, they learned lighthouse and construction for rehab of local distressed properties. And for the second 2 weeks, they would learn in accord with their GED requirements. So they learned how to rehabilitate homes, and they learned a trade based on their GED, or learned their GED curriculum, it sounds like. And the groups were swapped out every 2 weeks. So it sounds like they were given a good set of tools. At the end of the program, we would try and help the kids get into labor unions, and they would have their GEDs as well. Ah, okay. All right, all right. A good bit of tools. Good bit of tools. You love the idea of learning financial literacy. I do too. It's very important. It's uh, not stressed enough. Right? And I was a mentor slash tutor slash advisor, you know. And I remember we had this day. I today cannot remember what it was called, but they were given pretend money, and they would go from station to station, and they would uh, move out, and they would sign a lease. So of course they had rent, and they would purchase a car. Can you hear me now? And so they had the option to take this pretend money and they would sign a lease, so they would have rent. They would buy a car, used or new, and so they would have a little bit less depending on the payment or if it was a flat out purchase. Then they had to buy pretend groceries and pay pretend utilities, etc. And then they would have to decide on a job based on what all their expenses were. So, kind of going from the end to the beginning, right? And when you saw the light bulbs that went off on some of these children's faces when they really understood how real it is out here, I just found that to be really interesting, you know, because it doesn't seem like we are taught uh, to seek gainful employment based on our spending habits. And it doesn't seem like we are taught to curb our spending habits right from the start. And of course, we live in a capitalist society, so why would they teach the children to do that, right? Ah, I see, Opulent Jade. They would bus you out to go to schools in the Caucasian neighborhoods. What was that like for you, leaving from what you know and where you were comfortable to go be around people who, I don't want to assume, but it would seem would be uncomfortable being behind or around uh, people whose people are at the root of a lot of those issues and the issues we still have today. What was that experience like for you? Rashid Sharif Al Bey says Dr. King's assassination was the catalyst that made New York City catch up to the national school busing movement. Interesting. Interesting. Now, in your opinion, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Opulent Jade, I agree with you that budgeting should be taught to our children today. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Rashid Sharif Al Bey says definitely budgeting. Teach them about trusts and holding companies and LLCs and what they are and what they're used for. Opulent Jade co signs and says, great idea. And so, going back to what the grant money would be used for, Rashid Sharif Al Bey says that's the way that he would use his grant money with that program that he had mentioned. And thank you for sharing that. So, our show has come to an end. And this was a really, really good discussion, in my opinion, about some ways that we could um, keep the dream alive, so to speak, better our people, better our communities, better ourselves. And if we look at the COFI model, the community organizing and family issues model, setting goals for yourself, setting goals for your family, setting goals for your community, and changing policy, right? So, Opulent Jade did make a point that I brought up, sorry, that I highlighted, where colleges push credit cards on the students in their freshman year. Listen, by the end of my freshman year, I think I had five. I wasn't even 18 when I signed up for them. That's the crazy part. But my credit score definitely told on me, and it takes a while to build it back up. Now, I also agree that maybe young people should learn that a poor credit score is not a death sentence because you can bring a credit score back up. Dedication, and education. So Rashid Sharif Al says for the budgeting class, he would also throw in an unexpected baby. Ha, hilarious. And that way they know the possibilities of childbearing on their financial trajectory and can make better decisions. I would push abstinence personally, but that's just me. Um, okay. So the impact of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination on you was it was extremely uncomfortable. You graduated from New Utrecht High School, and there were race riots. That's so Opulent Jade. You were bused to Caucasian schools, and Rashid Sharif Al Bey, you experienced race riots. I just want to say I'm honored to have you both here to be able to share that experience because, of course, I was not even a thought, right? That was about what, 10, 15 years before I was even conceived. And so I am happy to know that you can share that experience with me. And I am happy to know that, I don't know, that I had it a lot easier. So I guess I want to say I'm privileged in that way, that I can hear about it, but that I don't have to see up front the devastation and confusion and the tragedy, but still knowing that inequity is a thing, still knowing that inequality is a thing, still knowing that violations of civil liberties are still a thing. Just knowing, I don't know. I think a lot of people today are soft too. I don't know if people from my generation and the generation after me would really put that work in, would really, beat the pavement and march to Washington and boycott for 5 straight years, 10 straight years without kind of losing focus. I kind of want to say a lot of us have ADHD when it comes to activism. And I don't mean that in an offensive way, but it is what it is. People, are on and then they're off again. So going back to your experience, you said that they didn't want you all there and y'all didn't want to be there. So, wow, it was a larger societal issue arguing against the SCOTUS decision regarding separate but equal. And Opulent Jade said, same. And you were chased home every day from school because of race riots. Sheesh. That had to be really, really traumatic. I just want to know from both of you, um, was the impact at the time a traumatic impact? Like, were you aware of the trauma, or did it dawn on you later on, like after the fact, when you had time to reflect? Wow, I was chased home from school because of race riots. When did it really when did it really start to sink in what it was that you were experiencing? And while I wait for you to respond, Opulent Jade, you said just more work. What were you referring to? The having a baby, or were you referring to the credit part? Trying to fix the credit when I said I had 5 credit cards by the time I was 18. Um, and Israel Mills says that he would focus more on the development of young men and women's interpersonal relationships. Those are really lacking today. Yes, indeed, sweetie. Yes, they are. Um, yeah. Would you say Generation X would be marching? Yeah. Would you be on the front lines? And some of them have. I just mean, I'm talking on a large scale, talking about the social media society. I'm talking about the people who are afraid to stand up and speak up about anything. Um, the people who fix their mouths to say there's no problem. I don't have a problem getting a job. I don't have a problem getting a loan. I don't have a problem uh, doing this, that, or the third. So there are no issues. Or the people who look like you and I and say racism doesn't exist, and I'm going to call those statements ignorant because they are. Um, But yeah, since I have a nice little crowd here, I'm going to close the show with another viewing of the Revolution video. And I hope that you all enjoy it. And this is Queen Sanaa featuring Iconic Bond, Revolution.
The revolution. The revolution will not be televised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be televised. It will not be televised.
I'm just a visionary. I can see clearly and I'm never staying stationary. They see me still and they consider me the adversary. Cause every time I spit a verse, I'm just a mercenary. They want me missionary shit. I ain't never gon' sit. They ain't let up on the clip and I ain't never gon' flip. They got a setup from the get up, but we rising in the shit. No more dying for the brick, we out here riding for the click. Watch my eyes, they focus on the sunrise. Every time the sun sets, I wear the culture on my neck and I ain't never undressed. No rest, we ain't weaker, we just full of soul and you oppressed. Ride or die, we riding rough until the day we meet in death. Staying blessed, I'm praying for you, praying for you. If they ever come, then I'm a slaying for you, slaying for you. I be at the front lines, ready like it's blunt time. Steady when it's tough time, cause I got the revolution bloodline.
Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be televised. It will not be televised. Young man, he was playing in these streets. He lived for staying in and out of beef. Each day, different drama in his life. He prayed that he would live to 25, but he hustled from the morning to the night. His only goal was trying to get his money right. Each day, staying in and out of beef. He prayed that he would make it in the street. What's the difference between a man and a king if they both got power? A man is just a man, and if he can't see the tower, he sleep. The line is marginal peace. Look in the mirror, you see pain and oppression. You want peace, it's getting clearer. Cause what is the purpose of you trying to secure the bag if nobody around you is trying to secure your status? Everybody wanna get angry when I ask the question. Guess something is better if it's something you never had. My bad. Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be compromised. So promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be compromised. So just look me in my eyes and promise you'll be at the front line. Revolution will not be televised. It will not be televised. It will not be televised. The revolution.
Thank you all for coming to my show today. Thank you all for your continued support. And I hope to see more of you in 2023. Don't forget to hit that like button and share the show with all of your friends. and family. Tell everybody you know about it, and have a wonderful week. How I choose to just live this week is being intentional about setting goals for myself, my family, and my community, and affecting community wide change, one brick at a time. Have a wonderful week, everyone.
I'm gonna get it together.
I'm just being in love. 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 When I met you, I didn't care about love. Didn't think that I would ever fall in love. Didn't know that we were so compatible. Simple, letting go of what I knew on the edge of heart. I met a man, it tears apart. No, they don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. Oh, we both know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes. They don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. Oh, we both know what it takes. We both know what it takes to be in love. This is something I can't control it. How you feeling, I just can't call it. I just know how I feel inside. I got love on my mind. Ooh, you know that I just adore you. And you know that I'll come before you. I just know how you feel inside. I got love on my mind. I'm just being in love. 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 I'm just being in love.